Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Warrenton's Finest Fantasy Football League Week 10 recap, Week 11 preview. You know who I am. Love me, hate me, ignore me. The choice is yours. All right, folks. Each week it gets harder and harder to face the camera. And that's not because of some witty joke that I could insert right here, but it's because I've lost 8 games in a row. I started 2-0. I keep coming back to those first 2 glorious weeks when I looked my wife in the eye and said, this is my year. And then it wasn't my year. Maybe it was my year to come in last. We'll see. All right. Well, I went up against this week had a little bit of drama for old Jeff and Carlos. The previous 2 bottom dwellers, the basement dwellers, and we engaged in a last place trade. One that sent Devon Achan from the Jeff Boys to the Allen to Londons. And it gave me DeAndre Swift and Keenan Allen. At the time, it seemed like, what's the worst that could happen? Well, guys, let me tell you what's the worst that could happen. Carlos has won 2 games in a row. No, maybe you lost last week. Regardless, you beat me this week. And it was solely due to the trade that we did. 41.5 points for Achan. His highest total of the year. His highest. By 10, I believe. If you take him off and you put him on my team, I think I win. I think I win because I got a total of a whopping 15 points from the guys that you gave me. So I would have had, let's see, 70 plus 40 is 110. You take 40 off of your score, you've got 80. You give you 15, that's 95. Yeah, I would have won. And boy, and I would have won last week as well because of just the way that I went over that last week. But I should be, should be, am not. But could be 4-6. But I'm 2-8. 2 games behind the next closest person. 4 games to go. Guys, I think this calendar is mine. Thank the Lord we're doing a 12-month calendar and not a 365-day flip calendar. Haha. That'd be a lot of photos. And I'm not going to do that. All right. Well, congratulations, Carlos, you little stinker. No trades. Veto these trades, guys. I was relying on you guys to tell me this was a bad deal, and you failed me. Yeah, the news just gets worse and worse. DJ Moore, 20 points on my bench last week, 0 when I started him. Kamara, 1.2 points when I started him last week. Didn't start him this week, 13 points. I mean, none of it would have helped, ultimately. I would have only beaten 1 team this week with my current score, so I can't even play I got scored on by the highest scoring person. I didn't. My team's just bad, and I think I've finally come to terms with that. All right, Carlos moves up to 4-6. I fall to 2-8. Enough about the last place team. Next up, we had Gone Fishing, taking on slightly above average team, and this one was projected initially very close. Matt projected 110. Jason projected 108, and you, Jason, went slightly above your average by a lot, actually. 131 to Matt's 104.02. A pretty large margin of victory, comfortably going in. Matt, there's really nothing that can console you. The only thing that could console you, actually, is that no combination of words you could put on a postcard, no song that I could sing, but I can try. Sorry, been doing a lot of weddings recently. A little Jack Johnson, sepia toned lovin', whatever that means. It's so poetic, it's stupid. All right, no combination of your bench players would have led to a victory. Jason's team just outclassed you this week. Jalen Hurts, only 12 points. 38 from Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, what a waste of that performance. A waste. You should trade him to me because you're not doing anything with him right. Matt falls to 7-3. Jason, slightly not above average. You're 5-5, but you're trending. I think you've won 2 in a row, so congrats for that. Very happy for you. All right, next up we had Chat GB Lee taking on Steven. Now, Steven, I'm going to do a fun little exercise with you because my team is so bad. There's not much like analysis I can do. But with you, I saw the score 105, Brandon, to 93.6, and I said, Steven. Let's see who Steven started. Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert as his quarterback, 14.7 points. Let's see how Drake May did. Would you look at that? 19.1. Now, it's only a margin of 5. And, Steven, if you do, there's only 2 changes you could have done to your team. You could have started Drake May, and you could have started, instead of Krosky Merritt, you could have started, no one else. You could have started Dallas Goedert, instead of Dalton Kincaid. But that would have only netted you 7 more points. You would have still lost 105 to 100. Brandon, of course, just a nice 105. You couldn't have scored that against me. You had to score 140. Whatever. Not bitter about it at all. But Steven, I went back all 10 weeks just to see how many times did you pick the highest scoring quarterback on your roster. Week 1, wrong choice. Week 2, wrong choice. Week 3, wrong choice. Week 4, wrong choice. I think I said reek just now because this stinks. Week 5, you made the right choice. 6, 7, wrong. Week 8, you made the right choice, but it was a 1-point margin. Week 9, you picked the right quarterback. Week 10, you did not. In total, out of 10 weeks where you had to choose between Drake May and Justin Herbert, you've only picked the highest scoring of those two 3 times. And that is impressive. What's it led to? A 5-5 record, of which I am jealous. So, hey, could be worse, could be me. But I just thought that was very interesting because, and probably the very frustrating thing for you as well is like the matchups seem to make sense. I think last week, it just seems like it seems like on paper you're picking the right matchup. And then whoever you pick scores 12, and then your bench guy scores 26. So I'm sure that's very frustrating for you, which makes me a little bit happier. Okay. Anyways, Brandon moves up to 6-4. Steven falls to 5-5, but you're doing fine there, pal. Next up, Bijan's Mustard taking on the Queen. Now the Queen, who scored, I don't know, Hannah, I just can't keep up with how you score week to week. It's just very all over the place. 98 would have beat me. Pretty good score. You could have beat a couple folks this week, but you played Greg. And Greg scored 126. And Greg, I can't really get a pulse on your team either. Like mentally, I feel like I'm better than you. You're 3 games better than me in reality. But I also feel like your team's way better than 5-5. So I just don't know what's going on. I mean, you did start Sam Darnold over Baker Mayfield. And Sam Darnold, how do you say his name? I feel like there should be like an apostrophe, Darnold. Regardless, he sucked. 4.9 points for you. And then Baker Boy, 22.9. Now, we all know that you started him because the Patriots' defense is elite, even though they're a bunch of pretenders and they're a bunch of frauds. I don't know. You're lucky you won. You're lucky you were playing Hannah. No offense, Hannah. Sorry. Anyways, 126 to 98.4. Big performance for you from Kyron Williams, 21 points. Seahawks defense, 21 points. Wowzeronies, macaronis. Waddle, 16. Those Dolphins, I don't know what's going on with them, but they're starting to kind of do stuff. Who else? So anyways, Hannah, I don't think there's no combination of words on a postcard of your bench players that would have beat Greg this week. So you fall to 4-6. Need you to lose the next 4, and I need to win the next 3, and then we'll have you in last place, and that would be fantastic. Greg is up to 5-5. Better yet, Greg, you could lose the next 4 games. I'll win the next 4, and then you can be in last place. I feel like you'd have more fun with this photo calendar than I would. All right, next up, we had Michael taking on Creature. Now, Michael, for someone who named their team after Olave, I don't know how to say his name. I don't think I've ever actually watched a game where he was in. What team is he on? The Saints? 20.9 points on your bench there, buddy, after your namesake of your team, and you lose by 13 points. Now, Michael, I was looking through your team because oh, dude, of course, you should have started Olave over Justin Jefferson because he scored more points. But that's the tricky thing about fantasy. Hindsight's always 20/20. My hindsight revelation is I shouldn't have played this year. Yours is that you should have played a guy in the Saints over the number 1 receiver, arguably, in the NFL. Your problem is that you have 6 solid, fantastic wide receivers. You should probably trade me a couple of them. I've got this guy, Justice Hill. He's about to go off. I'll send you a trade proposal. Anyways, Michael falls to 6-4. Sean, 5-5. I don't know, Sean. I feel like your team should be better than 5-5. Historically, you are obviously better than 5-5. 34 points from Trayvon Henderson. Nobody even knows who he is. His parents forgot he was in the NFL. He scores 34 in your slot. That's crazy. Derrick Henry, only 9.9. What an off year for that fella. What is going on? Anyways, that was that game. All right, now this one. We've all been looking forward to the breakdown of Mike taking on Dan because I'm going to read something off to you. All right, you guys ready? I wrote this down. 11.3, 29.5, 37.3, 12.1, 30.1, 22.7, 32.7, 40.4, 6.7, 53.1. Now you may be wondering, Jeff, why you're reading off the scores of Hannah's team for every week? And you'd say, haha, that was a good guess. But no, these are all Jonathan Taylor's scores. Yeah, you heard me right. 40.4, 53.1, 53.1 points this past week. Mike, you could have started, and Dan, plug your ears on this one. You could have started Jonathan Taylor, and then, who's this guy on your bench? Chuba Hubbard, who scored 2 points. You could have just started those two and benched every single other person on your team, and you would have beat Dan Pond. Dan Pond, the freaking science mon, who scored 54.46 points. And it wasn't even a bad bye week for you, Dan. You had Xavier Worthy. I don't even know if you start him. And then Javonte Williams, that trade was a real stinker for you. You only had 2 dudes on bye, and you're getting a 7-point performance from your quarterback, a 0.5 from this guy, Terrell Jennings. Oh, you picked the wrong Patriots running back. You should have gone with a guy that Sean started. Anyways, 54.6. 54.6. Now, you had Jameson Williams on your bench. He could have been better than Wandale Robinson, but that only would have netted you 10 more points. Dalton Schultz, you could have played him instead of TJ Hawkinson. That would have got you 13 more points. So you're at like 70 points now, maybe 80, sniffing 80. But your team just was not great. But of course, you played Mike, who scored 142. Could have beat every other team. That's just the weird thing, too. It's like the highest scoring team seems to always be playing the lowest scoring team. It's kind of like a waste. It's a waste. Hopefully, when the playoffs come, and I won't be a part of them, obviously, but when the playoffs come, hopefully you guys just all lose and nobody wins this year. So we'll see if that can happen. Okay, well, that's our recap for Week 10. It was very interesting. The results from the prop bet, looking back, not a huge fan of this prop bet because it's honestly kind of confusing. The way that I was worded, the most touchdowns scored by someone closest to 50 or under 50 yards or closer to if everyone's over 50. It was strange. We had eligible people was Carlos had a guy with 63 yards and a touchdown. Jason, 83 yards and a touchdown. Brandon, 58 and a touchdown. Steven, 60 yards and a touchdown. Hannah, 84 and a touchdown. Michael, 74 and a touchdown. Mike, 244 yards and 3 touchdowns. You jerk. And then, Greg's the winner. 53 yards and 1 touchdown. So Greg is the winner of the Week 10 prop bet. Let's take a look at the Week 11 prop bet as we do our preview for Week 11. Week 11 prop bet is called I Like Your Sack. No, I think I wrote that wrong. Sack Party. It still doesn't sound right. Sack Attack? Slightly better. So this goes for the team whose defense has the most sacks that week. Now, guys, that's not for the players on their team sacks. This is for sacking the quarterback. The most sacks by the defense, not of the defense, for the defense. Tiebreaker goes to the highest scoring defense point total for that week. So, Sack Attack is our Week 11 challenge. Now, let's take a quick look at our scoreboard, our previews for Week 11. We've got Jeff Boys taking on the Unlimited Vetoes. And holy cow, Michael, you stinker. 132 projected points again. Again with the high projections. Ridiculous to my 96, and that's the best I can do. I'll probably actually score 70. All right, Steven. So that's 2-8 Jeff taking on 6-4 Michael. Lord help me, please. Just one thing. One thing I ask. Steven, 5-5 taking on 7-3 Matt. 103 Steven to Matt's projected 86, but I see 2 people are on bye in your lineup, so you might want to take a look at that. The Queen, 4-6, taking on 6-4 Bruden. 99 Hannah, projected to Brandon's 124. Sean, 5-5, taking on Greg, 5-5, projected right now 119 for Sean to 114 for Greg. Dan Pond, 5-5, taking on 4-6 Carlos. Go Dan Pond, beat Carlos. Carlos projected 126 to Dan Pond's 99, and that might be a stretch, Dan. Last up, we have Brother Battle. Jason, 5-5, taking on 6-4 Mike, 104 to Mike 78, but 3 people are not updated in your lineup. So Mike, please check your lineups, and everyone have a wonderful rest of your week. Check your lineups. I don't know if there's a London game. I'm getting annoyed at those. Those are pretty dumb, but it was actually a good one this past week. Did you guys see the funny? Did somebody post the meme about Daniel Jones getting like when your dentist asks you're flossing? That made me chuckle. And it still continues to. All right. Have a great day.